Good afternoon. This is awesome. It's nothing like a live audience, Jerry, as they say. But I'm Dean Fisher, and I have served formerly with the board here at Openlands. I was also the board chair at Audubon Great Lakes. But today it gives me great pleasure to introduce my good friend Marshall Johnson as today's keynote speaker. Marshall serves as Audubon's Chief Conservation Officer and leads the strategic direction for hemispheric-wide conservation work at Audubon to address the unprecedented climate change and biodiversity crisis facing birds. His work with grasslands is absolutely immense. He spearheaded the development and launch of the Northern Great Plains Grasslands Project, which has conserved nearly 500,000 acres across the Dakotas, enrolling over 300 farmers, ranchers, and communities to participate. Marshall, impressive. Marshall also led Audubon's Conservation Ranching Initiative, now America's largest regenerative bird-friendly land certification, spanning more than 3.5 million acres across 16 states. But most importantly, Marshall's now a movie star. Marshall is a prominent voice in the recently released IMAX films Wings Over Water, which is narrated by Michael Keaton. If you haven't seen it, you should, and you'll see Marshall's role in that. I could go on, but I think you'd rather hear what Marshall has to say. So please welcome to the stage, Marshall Johnson.
Thank you, Dean. You know, Dean's really special, isn't he? He's a really remarkable leader. And I want you to join me in giving a hand to Dean. It was his birthday just yesterday. You know, if you knew the travel tribulations that I've been through over the last 18 hours to get here, you'd know how committed I was to making it here to be with you. You know, you're going to have trouble getting out of O'Hare, but you're not supposed to have trouble getting in to O'Hare. You know, special O'Hare, O'Hare. O'Hare, 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 have a chair. You ain't going anywhere too soon, right? You laugh because you know there's some truth to that, don't you? Good morning, Chicago. It is really a pleasure to be here with you. You know, and I'm really excited to be here with you, and I was so excited to tell Jerry yes when he asked me to keynote today, and I almost didn't get the chance to tell Jerry how excited I was to be here and that I'd do it. We had a call, and it was the first time I was meeting Jerry. And he opened up the call, and he talked for about 30 minutes straight. And I almost didn't get a chance to tell him, yes, I would love to do it, Jerry. You laugh because you know. Jerry has a lot to say, and he's earned the right to say it. As you all know, absolutely. Absolutely. As you all know, Jerry is a once-in-a-lifetime leader, a change maker, an advocate, a collaborator. Our national board chair, and I'm going to send her very best, Susan Bell, she served as the chair of Openlands many years ago with Jerry and thinks the world, and I know everyone in this room thinks the world of Jerry. And what I know of Jerry and Openlands, it could really be summed up in the mission statement. It's conserving nature for life. That's really special. And you see the impact that Openlands has made, and what I love, it's Jerry, it's the leaders on his staff, but it's each and every one of you in this room today that make Openlands what it is. Thank you, Jerry, and thank you for having me. I actually spend quite a bit of time in Chicago over the years, specifically the Cook County Nature Preserves, Chicago's unique capacity to come together as a working coalition with volunteers side by side with NGO leaders, agency leaders is really special. It's absolutely remarkable. Chicago, nothing is more impressive than the towering list of 250 partners involved in the Chicago Wilderness Project, conserving more than 600,000 acres here in the region. It's wonderful to see here Superintendent Arnold Randall, Cook County President Tony Prickwinkle, Chicago Park District Superintendent Rosa Escarino, and all of you, a true cooperation of land stewardship. It's really remarkable, Chicago. You get it right in so many ways. I could name so many partners that Audubon is lucky to partner with here. You know, when I was growing up in inner city Dallas and Los Angeles, I didn't know that people had careers wholly dedicated to preserving and protecting birds. I didn't actually know that birds needed our protection. But here I am, honored to serve as the conservation chief for Audubon Society, the voice of birds across the Americas. I joined Audubon as a part-time climate field organizer straight out of college. I thought this would be a 6-month gig, and that was 13 years ago now. And yes, you're doing the math right. I often walk into rooms at Audubon and I'm the youngest person in the room and I've been there the longest. So it's kind of interesting that way. Birds are the prism through which Audubon views our work. Birds take us to the places, but more importantly, the people that we work with. We simply say, birds tell us. Birds, billions of which right now are filling our backyards and our skies as they migrate across the hemisphere, linking each one of our communities together. Birds tell us through this miraculous journey where the most important places are to protect. Places like Powderhorn Lake, a freshwater bullseye on the southeast side of Chicago where Audubon Great Lakes, our team and the Cook County Nature Preserves and many other partners are in the process of restoring over 100 acres of urban wetlands. This is part of an ambitious goal of restoring and protecting 300,000 acres of coastal wetlands in the Great Lakes region. Birds tell us a lot of things if we're keen to listen. Birds, I think of birds as our playlist in nature, filling our time in nature with song. But all too often now, birds are calling out to us through their silence. Birds tell us that we must look beyond our partisan differences and form collaborations. Audubon and Openlands, we take this serious. We take it to heart and we practice it. I would offer to you today that birds are telling us something much more profound. Birds are telling us that our food culture and the choices we make with food are key to securing the future for birds and ourselves. We must use food and agriculture to make every day our own special Earth Day. I've always loved these words by Wendell Berry. Eating is an agricultural act. I believe that food offers each and every one of us an opportunity to make every day Earth Day, to unleash that which is our superpower, our power of choice. I began thinking about this in the context of birders and North America's most imperiled ecosystem, grasslands. Did you know that there are nearly 50 million birders in the United States? There aren't 50 million registered Republicans or 50 million registered Democrats, but there's a constituency that leads with a passion for birds in the United States. And I think about that. I think about the Amazon rainforest. We think of the rainforest as being key to our climate future and to biodiversity. It is. The tipping point for the loss of the rainforest is 20%. We're straddling around 60%. Grasslands in America, we've lost more than 60%. Here in Illinois, that's over 98% of the eastern tallgrass prairie. These things started to really kick around with me when I first started in grasslands conservation. I was named the regional vice president of Audubon, Dakota, when I was 24 years old. And one of my first projects, and I was already a bit skeptical about our traditional modes and methods of protecting grasslands. I would look at the annual charts of our aggregate efforts of protecting this ecosystem, and I would look at the annual charts of how much we were losing, and it wasn't adding up. And I was young enough to know that I plan on being here 40 years from now, and I want those grasslands there. And I remember my first conservation project that I completed in the northwest corner of North Dakota. We have a sanctuary there, and we had used the time-honored tradition of idle management for those grasslands, and we know how that turned out. Not well. And when I look across the fence line at ranchers Todd and Cindy Brown's land, there were a lot of grasslands there. And they were far more abundant and producing birds than ours. And so we worked out a partnership, Todd, Cindy, and I, where we would fence our land and create a grass bank for Todd and his family to graze the land. And I'll never forget, it's one of those things you remember the sights, the sounds, the smells when he said it. I drove out 5 hours out to the prairie there, and we had lunch. And when Todd was bidding me farewell, he said to me, "Marshall, this is just great. You don't care much about my cows and what happened to them. And I can't keep track of the LBBs out here, the little brown birds. But we made this partnership work, and it's a non-traditional partnership, and I'm happy with it. But I don't know why the 5 hours home really stuck with me. What Todd's words said to me, and they were true, was that me as a conservationist and he as a rancher, we had all too of a transactional relationship. I better be concerned with what happens to Todd's cows, that he has a marketplace for those cows. I have to be concerned with this. He's got to think about his role in feeding folks that he may never meet. This really stuck with me, and thinking about 50 million birders making food choices, having any power that maybe they don't realize. Lucky for me at the time, Providence led a fellow traveler my way, Chicago's own Justin Pepper, the Chief Conservation Officer for the Bobolink Foundation. Back then, he was the director of the Prairie Bird Initiative with Audubon, and he was kicking around this crazy idea of creating a marketplace with certified ranchers that are meeting a standard for birds, climate-smart practices out on the landscape. Fast forward a number of years, and we've, as Dean noted, we've enrolled nearly 4 million acres in the conservation ranching program. And across Audubon certified lands, bird data shows functional diversity, a measure of bird community representation, has increased on average by nearly a third. This means that more diverse and resilient bird communities are supported on Audubon certified family ranches. But that's the first step. With over 400 community points of purchase around the country, from Meijer's grocery store to Whole Foods, we aim to facilitate the growth of a marketplace that's based on regenerative agriculture and real regenerative agriculture. I think that market-based conservation offers everyone an opportunity every day to contribute to the nourishment of our earth. Now, I've got to tell you, as you know, I'm a millennial, and I can be a bit skeptical from time to time. And I have to ask myself, and it's something that I would have you ask yourself as well, is this just conscientious consumerism to save grasslands? You know, where everyday people are asked to pay more to atone for long-standing bad practices and policies? I would offer that it can't just be that. and it has to be more comprehensive than that. Regenerative agriculture offers us a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to conserve grasslands and other ecosystems, to truly transform the food industry in partnership with producers, farmers, ranchers, and consumers, and align with a new form of food culture. We have an incredible opportunity coming up, the Farm Bill, where we and our partners look to mobilize folks that care about nature, care about birds, to create a farm bill, to create a food culture that can take us to a secure climate future and one that protects our biodiversity. There's so many ways that Farm Bill and other policies that we have to engage in give us an opportunity to inform and transform the food culture. Take, for example, the National School Lunch Program, a $4 billion program that feeds nearly 32 million kids through public and nonprofit private schools and child care facilities to provide low-cost, free lunches and breakfasts to tens of millions of little kids. One of the major challenges of the program are consistent critiques of food quality. It's certainly true that any food is better than no food, but we've got to do better. But a number of recent studies have shown that kids that regularly eat lunches provided at school are consuming far more sugar and have far greater levels of cholesterol and are more likely to be obese. Only 7% of food operations fully comply with the nutritional standards. Now, there is progress being made on the nutritional front, but why can't we use programs like this to link back to regenerative agriculture and make sure that when our public dollars are funding food programs, they're funding nutritional programs that are also good for the land and catalyze regenerative agriculture? I could go on, and Jerry, we've got to get out of here at 1:30, so I'm not, about what we can do in Farm Bill and through programs like conservation ranching and other regenerative partnerships. One day, a number of years ago, I gave a TED Talk, and I opened it by saying that I hate Earth Day. I could have opened with something a little bit less crass, but I was in a bit of a millennial irreverent mood that day, so that's what I did. Of course, I don't really hate Earth Day. What you might guess is instead my preference is to have Everyday Earth Day. Everyday, yeah, absolutely. Everyday practices and intensity to tackle our real problems, and every day honoring our beautiful planet that we share together. What choice do we have? Our climate crisis is not a Hollywood movie where a giant asteroid is being tracked for its collision with Earth and that we think that we want to somehow divert. Our crisis is very real. We are decades into it, and rather than one giant problem, we are experiencing a series of many problems that take place across our planet from our communities across the hemisphere. In addition to public policy, I want you to know that you have agency every day. We do have choices, particularly those of us in this room today. What is needed is building on a model that Audubon and partners like Openlands have perfected over the years and proven time and time again. With investments in science-based ideas that bring communities together, we can deliver on-the-ground action and simply put, make good and just use of our resources. This means we need a strong and effective and more meaningful partnerships with ranchers and farmers. That's a core tenet of Openlands and also for us at Audubon. Farmers and ranchers are our custodians of our food system. We need buy-in and partnership from private landowners, especially when you consider that nearly 80% of what remains of grasslands are privately owned. We can't regulate our way onto farms and ranches, and we should. Audubon's bird-friendly beef program is underpinned by this belief, and our belief that through regenerative agriculture programs like this, we can create bird-friendly areas that will protect grassland birds at scale and support them with habitat where they need and where they can thrive. We need big ideas and big action in the coming years. I want to share this quote with you. It's one of my favorites. It really puts it into context. We need big investments and big ideas, but it's the little individual acts done daily which really add up. And we also need to tell the truth and have authentic conversations across communities. The largeness in our ideas must still happen time and time again, in villages and ranches, in Chile, and prairies across the American West. Many small conservation efforts coming together across this vast landscape and many others. The next time that you buy groceries, do me a favor. Think the labors of many who have brought us this food. Let's thank the animals and the plants for sharing their life form. And let's thank the farmer who is going the extra mile to better care for their cattle and their soil so that healthy grasslands, an indelible image of our prosperity, waves in the cool breeze, welcoming home all those little brown birds. Thank you, Chicago. Thank you, Openlands. May God bless you and keep you today and all days.